I just saw the first two episodes of the new season of Scrubs. Just basically a continuation of the storyline after season 8 because apparently season 9 is no longer part of this universe. So, anyway, in this episode, JD is now a concierge doctor. It's a private doctor that treats patients at their home, usually wealthier clients and all that. So he ends up going back to Sacred Heart because one of his clients was admitted there. So he gets to see everyone again: Elliot, Carla, Dr. Cox, Turk. And he's feeling nostalgic and looking around and seeing how things are. And, well, basically, what we see in this episode is Dr. Cox wants him to come back to the hospital because there are new interns there and they're of the latest generation, and, well, they're not handling the work very well. You know, the stuff with this generation and how difficult it is for them to do a lot of stuff. And we see that there's one girl that's an influencer, and the other guy who's from the UK, who's a bit different, I guess. Maybe because he hasn't adapted to the US yet. And then there's another girl and another couple of girls, and one of them is a surgeon who wants Turk to be her mentor, but he's not really interested because apparently he's in a bit of a dark place now since he's been working for a long time and it's exhausting and he's mentally worn out, and it makes sense. The medical field is very intensive and it is very easy to get worn out very quickly. So he's in a kind of a dark place. And JD's seeing all this and he's thinking about what he should do. And at the end of the episode, JD decides to take up Dr. Cox's offer and come back to the hospital. But it turns out that Dr. Cox didn't want him to come back to work for him or anything because Dr. Cox is the chief of medicine. He actually wanted JD to replace Dr. Cox as the new chief of medicine. And that's a shocker, and honestly to me seems like not the right move for JD's character because JD's always this fun-loving comedic character who's not that serious and all that. And being the chief of medicine in a hospital, even though this is a sitcom, it requires a level of seriousness that I don't think JD is right for. I mean, look at the previous people who were the chief of medicine at this hospital. Dr. Cox, he is a serious person. And what was the previous chief of medicine's name? I forgot. What was it? I'll say if I remember it. But yeah, JD being the chief of medicine, it didn't feel like the right fit. So anyway, the second episode basically starts with JD going to the hospital as the new chief of medicine. And oh yeah, there's one other thing. I mean, he was a concierge doctor for a long time and now he's jumping back into the hospital as the chief of medicine. Would that really work? Would doctors just be appointed like that? I mean, if he was working in another hospital, sure, but he wasn't working there, so anyway. So he becomes the chief of medicine, and then there's this other doctor who also wanted to be a chief of medicine, but Dr. Cox passed him up and put JD in instead. So he's resentful of JD and wants to see him. One kind of wants to take him down, so JD now has a sort of enemy, I guess. So in the second episode, JD tries to be the chief of medicine his way, the fun-loving, energetic way. And he tries, but shortly after he realizes that it's not gonna work, him being himself and doing things his way isn't gonna be good for the hospital or everyone involved, the doctors, the nurses, the patients. it's gonna be a mess. So he ends up becoming doing more serious stuff and taking hard decisions. And basically, he changes his approach. And although a lot of people are mad at him and disappointed at him, with him, he has to do what he has to do. He has to do what he feels like he has to do. And we see at the end of the episode, we see him kind of dealing with that. So the first two episodes, while they were interesting, I don't know if the JD being the chief of medicine dynamic would work. Honestly, plus the fact that if JD is the chief of medicine, that means Dr. Cox is retired or something now, because I didn't see him in the second episode. Now I thought he would hang around just doing stuff or researching or something like the previous chief of medicine did after Dr. Cox became chief of medicine. But I don't see him there, so if he's not there, that's a bit disappointing, and feel like this might be a bit difficult to work. But anyway, the first two episodes are interesting, and I will be looking forward to seeing the next episode. And I'm wondering how these episodes are going to be released. If it's two at a time, I think it's okay, but if it's one episode per week, that's going to be a bit annoying, but we have to wait and see about that. So yeah, at least the new season of Scrubs is looking interesting. So